So let me start off by just making a couple of points. First of all, I'm very delighted that, if you'll remember, last spring we got the county jail backup reached almost 3,000. It was 2,900 and edging up to 3,000, so that was a high water mark. We had all of the sheriffs and judges very concerned and complaining and distraught about, rightfully so, the backup of our state prisoners in the county jails. So it was close to 3,000, and today it is at 1,142. And so that is a dramatic decrease in the backup in our county jails. I think it's reflective of trying to balance an effective parole system, reasonable policies, and also increased prison space that we have accomplished as a result of a legislative session and increased investment. More work to be done, but that's a good news. Secondly, and this has been reported, but narrowly, and that is the efforts of our State Department of Veterans Affairs, Director Matt Sneed, and the reorganization to move our service officers closer, not just in Little Rock, but closer to the veterans across the state. And we have completed the installation or the opening of 5 new regional offices. They are all in place ahead of schedule, and that should be good news for our veterans in this state. Thirdly, I know I indicated that in January I would be meeting with Secretary Burwell. We have got a date set for that. It is February 1, not quite in January, but that was just a scheduling issue, and it works well. So I'll be meeting with Secretary Burwell in Washington, D.C. on February 1. I'll be accompanied by Senate Pro Tem Jonathan Dismang and Speaker Jeremy Gillum, as well as the Surgeon General, and we'll be meeting with Secretary Burwell and her team. Leading up to that, a lot of work will be done in terms of DHS, be working with CMS and trying to fine-tune some of the elements of the waiver changes that we are requesting and the new model under Arkansas Works. The fourth thing I would mention is that I'm working very hard on the highway funding plan, and we've worked with legislators. Our working group has presented options to me, and I will be making my recommendations known in public on January 19th. So if you ask me today what we're going to say, ask me again on January 19th, because that is a work in progress. That's not been formulated now, but we're continuing to work with all of the interested parties to try to come up with something that we can get through the legislature, but also really addresses even a more critical need than we had 6 months ago, and that is with the new federal legislation that allows increased funding to the states, requires $50 million, $45 to $50 million in matching funds to access that. And that's really the most critical. We don't want to leave $200 million of federal highway money on the table because we cannot meet our matching fund requirements. So that is added necessity for addressing the highway funding needs, and we'll make an announcement on January 19th. Finally, before I turn it over for questions, I will be going to the shooting, hunting, and outdoor trade show, which is also known as the SHOT Show. That will be January 21 through 22nd. It'll be an overnight trip to Las Vegas. And as you know, the SHOT Show is the largest trade show of its kind in the world. It has over 1,600 exhibitors. It has a trade show focused on the firearms, ammunition, and hunting and shooting sports. It is represented by professionals from 50 states and 100 countries. All of the major firearm manufacturers will be present at that show. It is my intention to follow up on calls that I've previously made to support, to recruit, to show that Arkansas is a good place for firearms manufacturers to do business in this state. So I'll be making my case to some of those there at the SHOT Show that we have already made contact with, and we'll follow up. And it'll be a little bit unusual for a governor to be there, but I've been to a lot of different trade shows where there's multiple governors there. It might be nice to go when I might be the only governor there and make our case for Arkansas. So those are a couple points I wanted to make. With that, I'll turn it over for questions.
Governor, on Medicaid expansion, negotiations with the feds, on the proposals that you've laid out, and the proposals that you've made for the expansion, are there any that are must-have, any that if the feds don't agree to it, you'd have to say the state can't keep doing the hybrid expansion?
Yes.
Which ones?
Well, work training referral requirements. Secondly, those that emphasizes the personal responsibility. And, there's variance one, but I do not want to have a continued Medicaid expansion without the emphasis upon work, opportunity to work, moving up the economic ladder, increased emphasis on personal responsibility, and program integrity. So all of those are essential in my judgment, and what we've presented is something that I think is necessary to make an effective and cost-effective program for Arkansas, and to make it not a permanent program in sense of permanent reliance upon what is designed to be assistance for people moving up the economic ladder. It is not designed to be permanent. It is designed to help people for a time as they move up the economic ladder. So we want to design that program. You probably could point to some things that are not make or break, little aspects of those three major components of Arkansas Works.
I guess among specific proposals, is the workforce training referral the only one that's, in terms of specifics, is that the only one that's make or break? You still want ones that achieve the other goals, but may not necessarily be those specific ones you got?
Well, I think once we formulate more of the details, we'll know which ones are make or break. Each of those principles are essential in my judgment. We are going to accomplish greater work responsibility and requirements. We're going to insist upon more personal responsibility. We're going to insist upon more program integrity that's been outlined, and we'll see where the discussions go with Secretary.
Governor, I was a little bit fuzzy on what was meant by work referral requirement. Who is required to refer, and what does that mean?
That means that you cannot make it a condition under current law for someone to access the Medicaid expansion that they are actually employed and working. And if you're not working, you're off. But there has been waivers granted in other states that would require DHS, when they consider an applicant for Medicaid expansion, that they're automatically referred for worker training. And obviously this is for those that are able-bodied. And so that is a requirement that we want. We believe that it will lead to greater training, and it'll lead to greater work opportunities and expectations for those that might access this health care benefit.
And who would they refer them to?
Well, right now those worker training programs are through the Department of Workforce Services, and so that's something we're having to address with them, because that would be a significant new training capacity that they might have to have. And so these are very specific details that we're going to have to work out between DHS and Department of Workforce Services.
So you can't require the recipient to actually go to the training, correct?
We're going to ask for as much requirement as we can. We'll see what we wind up with.
Have you made a decision about a special session?
Only that we'll need one. In terms of the specific time frame, no.
If the Stephen Group report says that even when the state starts contributing money for Medicaid expansion, it still saves the state money. Why is it fair to say that those $800 million in traditional Medicaid cuts are necessary to pay for expansion?
Because even all right, if we eliminated the Medicaid expansion, there's a great hole in our budget. But even with continuing the Medicaid expansion, there will be a hole in our budget because of the beginning with 5% and moving up to 10% of the cost of the expansion population have to be covered by the state of Arkansas. And it's my judgment that we should not be dipping into education to pay for that. We should not be cutting general revenues that go to children welfare. We should not be cutting it to the other essential services of our state, including higher education, but that we should be able to pay for that with the overall savings that come from the Medicaid program. And so this is my effort to avoid hurting our general revenue budget picture because of the desire to make sure that we have coverage for the 200,000 or so of the expanded population.
John asked about the special session. There had been talk about special sessions. Are we still talking about one special session? Two special sessions?
That remains to be determined. I mean, the needs are, obviously, we could need to have a special session on the highways. We may need to have, we obviously will need to have a special session in terms of Medicaid reform and the Arkansas Works Initiative. So those are two clear needs, as well as miscellaneous other topics that are more of a minor nature that might have to be included. So the question would be whether, I mean, it would make a lot of sense if you had one special session to include all of the issues that are on the table at that point, and I would expect that to be the result, but I would want to keep my options open in the event that the legislative leadership and we reached a different conclusion.
So there's no chance of a transportation special session before the primary?
I would not anticipate that, no. I would not anticipate that.
Are you supportive of Congress sending to the President a bill that would end Medicaid expansion?
Do I anticipate Congress?
No, are you supportive of it? They're expected to send a bill to the President today that he's expected to veto that would end Medicaid expansion.
You know, I haven't read the legislation. Obviously, I have been a long time opponent of the Affordable Care Act in terms of its origination, the expansion of the federal government role in health care. But that is a debate that took place, what, 4 or 5 years ago? And so where are we right now? We have the Affordable Care Act. We have over half the states that have supported the expansion of their Medicaid population. Those were decisions that were made in Arkansas before I became governor. And those are the circumstances I'm dealing with. Right now, we understand that they're voting in the House and Senate. They've already voted on the Senate side, so we vote on the House side to, in general terms, repeal the Affordable Care Act. But I haven't read how that's done. I would expect any legislation that would end the Affordable Care Act would deal with a transition for the 30-some states that have Medicaid expansion as to how you unwind that. It's not something that you do abruptly. It's something that would take some time to do, and you'd have to manage that process. And so I would expect any legislation that is realistic in that regard to include details on how you handle the states that have expanded the Medicaid population. I haven't read this legislation as to how it deals with that, because we all expect the president to veto it, and so it's not even though it's a strong expression of opposition to the Affordable Care Act, President Obama is expected to repeal it. I think a greater debate along this line would be if we have a different administration in 2017, then that legislation is really going to matter. the process and how that's done.
Ultimately, do you think that federal dollars should be coming to Arkansas to cover low-income people in the Medicaid expansion range, whatever the solution is?
If I would have been in Congress when the Affordable Care Act came into being, I would have voted against it. Since then, we've had a lot of water under the bridge, and we have to deal with our current health care system that's been modified under the Affordable Care Act for the last 4 or 5 years. And so you almost have to start afresh and not simply debate what we've done, but we've got to debate where we want to go. And do I want to have a reduction of the federal role in health care? Absolutely. Do I want to have more discretion to the states to manage the Medicaid program? Absolutely. And that is really essential. I don't think we would have difficulty here in Arkansas in getting great unity in terms of where we go with our Medicaid population if you had a state block grant type of approach where we could put work requirements, not just work referral requirements, but more serious requirements in place, where we could put use our flexibility for the personal responsibility and more management of the entire program. That's where I hope that we go. So I want to have a debate on the future of health care in 2017 when we can actually hopefully have changes that will be meaningful, and the states need to have the greatest voice because we have the greatest experience.
We're talking about some of the program integrity. We know you can't do the asset tests, but, you know, for those who were surprised by some of the things that came out of the Stevens report, you know, what really can be done to help with some of the program integrity?
Well, I think a lot can be done in that arena. One of the suggestions is that we have a overarching interagency group that makes sure that we're looking at all the data that we have from other agencies as to the eligibility for those on Medicaid. That we have not just a once a year, once every 2-year review, but it's an ongoing type review, a rolling review of those that are eligible, so we don't have cliffs, that we don't have surprises, but it's a constant review. This is the type of program integrity that I think is important. Some of them we can do within the state of Arkansas by legislative action and my action. Others will take waivers and rule changes from Washington, and that's one of the things that we'll be pushing.
About a year ago, you said that you gave a speech to the entire state saying you were ending Medicaid expansion. Senator Hendren has been going around the state saying pretty much the same thing. If enough legislatures who are opposed to funding the private option are elected in the March 1st primary or in the general election, do you have a plan to wind down the program? It seems like it's not going to get funding.
Well, thanks for the question. You're not precisely phrasing what I said. What I said in my speech after I became governor is that the private option would end on December 31, 2016. That commitment is being met. We're ending by legislative action. The private option ends on that date. The question is, where do we go from there? I have proposed Arkansas Works that have very stringent new requirements, and if we can be successful in that, then I would support a renewal of the Arkansas Works program, receiving the federal expansion dollars based upon the Arkansas Works initiative.
Where are you on your DHS search?
I expect to be starting interviewing people by mid-January.
On highway funding, I know you said wait until the 19th to ask you, but have you ruled out tax increases or fee increases for increasing funding?
The only thing I've said is that it has to be neutral, which means that if we do have a tax increase, it has to be an offsetting tax decrease. So that's the only way that I think we can be fair to the Arkansas taxpayers, for one thing, but secondly, there's a political reality there. That's what the legislature would expect in terms of a result.
Are you looking at tapping into general revenue? Is that a realistic option given tax cuts recently?
All the options that were presented by the Highway Working Group are on the table, and that is one that is an option that they presented.
guess the Secretary of State announced that he was reversing his decision of closing the Capitol on the weekends. Did you actually talk to him about it? Did you tell him?
I didn't talk with him personally, but the governor's office did communicate with Secretary of State's office and just raised a question about it. And they very gracious about it in response and receptive to our concern that it did limit access to the people of Arkansas. Many students, others that are here on weekends that like to access the Capitol. So it was quite frankly, we just raised the question and they responded that way, and we're very pleased and surprised by it.
Trevor, have there been any kind of additional economic prospects, that you don't know specific, but in the past few weeks that might kind of clue us in on a little bit?
Well, we're working very hard on some, but there's not any that I can clue you in on at this point. So stay tuned.
On gun rights, how is Obama attacking our Second Amendment rights for requiring people with background checks, for example, at gun shows and all, for buying weapons?
Well, that's a great question. And if you look back, the announcements preceding the president's comments yesterday was that he is going to bypass Congress and he's going to take action himself. Well, that to me is an affront to the legislative process. Secondly, he made the announcement that we're going to have new regulations, and I reread that before the meeting today. We're going to have new regulations from ATF, new regulations from the Justice Department, new regulations from Social Security, new regulations from the Department of Health and Human Services. Let me tell you, I've had enough experience with this president that I want to wait and see what those regulations say. I have no confidence in the regulations that will be proposed by this administration when it comes to having more burdens on honest, law-abiding citizens who want to purchase firearms. So that is what I meant by what I see as an overreach by this president, what I see by using the regulatory process to burden average citizens whenever we're not accomplishing the chief objective, and that is to reduce criminal behavior in this country and to reduce terrorism in this country. And I want solutions that work, not solutions that just divert us from the real challenge that we face.
On the,
Yep. Go ahead.
on the 2016 race, yeah, you made your support for Governor Huckabee known. Considering where he is in the polls right now, any reconsideration of that?
My support for Governor Huckabee remains consistent. And when I read over the holidays what his schedule was in Iowa, this guy has not given up in Iowa. He is working hard in Iowa, and he deserves to have a chance to make his case in Iowa. If he does not meet his expectations in Iowa, then as his campaign has indicated, I expect them to reconsider where they are. But he deserves the opportunity as much as he is invested to make his case in Iowa, to be successful in Iowa, and let's wait and see.
Governor, we're getting ready for these two controversial holidays that are coming up. Have you thought about how you're going to mark Martin Luther King and Robert E. Lee, or if you're going to mark them at all?
It is coming up again. I was looking at that really as a general session issue for 2017, and I do hope that that is addressed with clarity and with legislative change in the next General Assembly. Quite frankly, I was looking at that as the next decision point in this debate. You know, as to this year, I'm certainly going to be celebrating Martin Luther King's special day. I'll be attending Martin Luther King events and celebrating the great contributions that he has made to this country.
What would you like to see the change made in 2017?
I would like to see his special day, his Martin Luther King Day, be a separate day to himself and to the recognition of his role in the civil rights movement in our country. It's important that that day be distinguished and separate and focused on that civil rights struggle and what he personally did in that effort. the great leader that he was during that cause. So they need to be distinguished and separate. I think that is the main purpose, and it should be done by legislative action, that is separated.
Governor, can you talk to us, your personal opinions on the late Senator Bumpers and the legacy you felt like he left on the state of Arkansas?
Wow. Well, I've had decades of relationship with Senator Bumpers, and Dale, as we affectionately call him in Arkansas. I ran against him for the United States Senate, and he beat me. But I learned during that time what an incredible speaker he was, how devoted he was to the state of Arkansas, and that he is someone that is really above the norm in terms of political skills and people skills. And then I worked with him in Congress. I was in the United States Congress when he was in the United States Senate, and we had a great working relationship there, and I saw his leadership on preserving our Civil War battlefields, on our history. He was a voice for the Constitution, so it was wonderful to work with him. And then after he left Congress, of course, we had a little trial together. It was in the United States Senate, and so I worked with him, respectful adversaries during that time, and then finally to see him in his retirement years continue his devotion in civic life, in Arkansas life, and he really has set an example for all of us for the love of the state of Arkansas, for bipartisanship and really civility in discourse in the public arena.